The Buffalo Bills with a big re-signing, literally and figuratively. They make their first outside edition. Jordan Poyer has a new home. A lot of Bills fans ain't going to like it. And the Buffalo Sabres are back in business. We're going to talk about it right now on Talking Buffalo.
Welcome to Talking Buffalo, featuring conversations with guests from around the world of sports, media, pop culture, and all things Buffalo. With your host, Patrick Moran.
All right, what is going on, everybody? How you doing? Welcome to another episode of Talking Buffalo, your weekday daily driver for Buffalo sports talk and more. My name is Patrick Moran. Thank you, as always, for watching, for listening, for following, for subscribing. I appreciate y'all very much. And I will humbly ask as well, if you happen to be watching this on the video side, and it seems more and more people are gravitating towards the video side, which, don't get me wrong, I absolutely love that. But if you are watching this video right now and you do like this show, you can do me a favor. Please pull out your phone, go to either Apple or Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts. Just go to Talking Buffalo, type that in, and make sure you hit that follow button. It really helps us grow on the audio side as well. All right, so day 2 of the NFL free agency period, legal tampering, whatever we want to call it, is in the books. This is going to be an extremely short episode here of Talking Buffalo. I'm not even recording this until well after 11 p.m. on Tuesday night. So pretty much I'm recording this, and then usually I'll put it in the can for a couple hours, release it, but this is pretty much getting published soon as I'm done. A very busy day in the NFL, a moderately busy day for the Buffalo Bills, a very busy day for myself. In fact, I kind of got caught up at my other job and didn't even get a chance to get back right now. So I'm kind of catching up a little bit here as we go along. I do have some notes in front of me. I got some thoughts on things that went on with the Buffalo Bills today, current players, former players, a couple things around the NFL. And like I said at the top, man, the Buffalo Sabres, a 7-3 shellacking of the Detroit Red Wings here in Buffalo at the KeyBank Center on Tuesday night. What a game. The Sabres are close to being real close right now to being back in business. If nothing else, meaningful hockey in the middle of March. Always good to see. But anyway, I'll kind of circle back towards that towards the end. And it is funny because, yes, I've gotten a lot of hate tweets over the last 24 hours, and I'm sure I'll get some more right now over the next 24 hours. But I called the Buffalo Sabres the worst organization in all of sports just a couple of weeks ago. And now here they go, going on a run, inching, I should say, at least into a playoff race, a legitimate one. So anyway, we'll kind of circle back at the end and hit on that. But as for the Buffalo Bills here on day 2, which I want to be careful. Another reason why I want this to be a short episode. I'm not going to try to keep you for an hour when, quite frankly, these type of episodes have such a short shelf life. For an example, Monday night, I had Tone Pucks here in studio. Didn't even start recording until 9:30. It got done around 10:30, 11 o'clock. When we were done, when the episode went out, DaQuan Jones had not resigned. Go to bed at about 1 a.m., get up around 7 a.m., and guess what? DaQuan Jones resigns, and he's a Buffalo Bill for another 2 years. Point being, I don't want to talk too much about news and what the Bills may or may not be doing, because by the time you hear this, there might already be 2 or 3 more moves, and then this will kind of be moot points, what I'm going over today. So let's kind of just stick to what's happened to this point. And again, to wake up on early Tuesday morning, I'm sure a lot of you woke up to maybe a text or a Facebook message or a DM from your friend, or you just jump on Twitter and you saw it. DaQuan Jones resigns with the Buffalo Bills, 2 years, $16 million, $10.5 million of that is guaranteed. And I got to tell you, you already know, if you've watched this show, if you follow this show, you know how I feel about this signing. I have had a handful of free agency preview shows. I've had guests on and we've talked about what our realistic desires were for this free agent period. And I've said it. I could dig up the clips, but go find them yourself. DaQuan Jones, to me, was my single biggest realistic number one priority for the Buffalo Bills. This is a better defense when DaQuan Jones is on the football field and healthy. And healthy. That matters too. By the way, The Athletic had DaQuan Jones ranked as the 25th best free agent in all free agency. And, if you watch the season last year, those first 4 games, DaQuan Jones had 2.5 sacks, making plays all over the football field, disrupting plays. DaQuan Jones was playing at, quite literally, an all-pro level that first month of the season. Then they go to London, and he tore his pec against the Jacksonville Jaguars, missed a bunch of games, came back for the last 2 games of the regular season and then 2 playoff games, and gave it a go, but he was not close to 100%. He was not close to the player that we saw the first month of the season. And the Bills, obviously, he is 32 years old. 2 years, again, 16 million, 10.5 guaranteed. Haven't gotten the exact, as we're recording this, the exact breakdown of the contract. Because a day or two later, that comes and you start to realize what the cap hit might be, what 1 or 2 void years might look like, stuff like that. So I can't really get into financials in the weeds with that too much right now. But what I will say is this, and this is the reason why I thought DaQuan Jones was my number one priority for the entire offseason. And I was just not even just talking about re-signing. I'm just talking about period. Being realistic, I said, I think the most important thing the Buffalo Bills can realistically do this free agency period is bring back DaQuan Jones. He's a hell of a player, even at 32 years old. Like I said, he has, I'm not going to call him an all-pro caliber player, but he sure as hell played like one the first month of the season last year. But it's not even just what he does. When he's on the football field and he's going, he makes Ed Oliver a better football player. He makes Matt Milano and Terrell Bernard better football players behind him too. He's taking on blocks. He's clogging up gaps. He's giving Matt Milano, he's giving Terrell Bernard a lot more room to make plays. I love this free agent signing. I really do. And you lose some veterans, some leadership in that locker room. Jordan Poyer and Micah Hyde and Trey White and Mitch Morse. I think it's important to bring back a couple quality veteran players, and maybe DaQuan Jones starts to take on more of a leadership role now if he didn't have one already. I love the move. I'm thrilled about it. I think it's a good move. And then AJ Epenesa re-signed on Monday, which we already talked about that with Tone Pucks. I don't want to get too deep into the weeds with that. But what we didn't know at the time that's come out now is the contract information. And Joe Biscaglia reported the deal, 2 years, $12 million, $6.56 million guaranteed at signing with 2 void years. His salary cap numbers for this year, his cap number is going to be at $4 million. 2025 is $6 million. And then a 2026 void dead cap of $2 million. Buffalo Rumblings reported that his contract is slotted as only the 60th highest among edge rushers. So, look, you get a guy right now for that money, and I think is really good value. I think he's still a young player who quite possibly could be still ascending. He had 6.5 sacks last year through 12 games. Then he hurt his ribs during a turnover play against the Kansas City Chiefs at Arrowhead Stadium. Missed a couple games, came back, played the last 2, and then 2 playoff games just like DaQuan, and just was not effective. And I'm sure the ribs bothered him. And I'm not an excuse maker, but you know how this team's just been absolutely cursed when it comes to injuries over the last couple of years. And these 2 guys are no exception. And I think to an extent, the Bills right now are gambling a little bit, at least, that AJ Epenesa and DaQuan Jones could stay healthy. When you look at their numbers as a whole for the season, not really all that impressive, but if you look at what they did before they got hurt compared to what happened and what they produced after they got hurt, it's like night and day. I put out a tweet earlier on Tuesday. DaQuan Jones and AJ Epenesa in games before their respective pec and rib injuries last season. DaQuan Jones, 2.5 sacks in 4 games. AJ Epenesa, 6.5 sacks in 12 games. Jones and Epenesa after the respective injuries. Jones, 0 sacks in 4 games. AJ Epenesa, 0 sacks in 4 games. So point being, their production was really good before they got hurt. The Bills are banking that they can repeat it. And I know there's some critics out there, including my friend of the podcast, recurring guest on the podcast, Joe from Queens. He hates the Bills spending money on the defensive line. He wants all the money to go into the offensive side of the ball. And I know there's a lot of people, by the way, getting really impatient right now, 2 days in, and the Bills have virtually done nothing on the offensive side of the ball. Pretty much all their signings and re-signings have revolved around the defense. Bringing back Taylor Rapp, bringing back Cam Lewis, bringing back AJ Epenesa, and now bringing back DaQuan Jones. And the critical approach to saying you're spending good money on the defensive line with these guys is this is a defense that has not gotten it done in the playoffs. And to be fair, that's not entirely wrong. This is a defense that has kind of wilted, not kind of, they have wilted, completely wilted in the last 3 Bills elimination losses. And if you want to be a critic of the moves, you're like, well, you're just bringing back 2 key components of a defense that got beat pretty well by Kansas City. And I'll say to that, I don't think DaQuan Jones and AJ Epenesa were the problems with the defense. And again, they were hurt too. And that does matter. And I hate excuses. And I'm not a homer. I call it like it is. Get a little over emotional at times. I go on these rants. I rail on the Buffalo Bills when I'm not happy with them. But I will take it to my grave that if the Bills defense was even close to healthy, they would have gotten the job done against the Chiefs in that divisional round. Because Terrell Bernard didn't play. Such a killer. Such a killer. Christian Benford couldn't go. That was a killer. Rasul Douglas hobbling around. That hurt bad. DaQuan Jones, again, out there, not 100%. AJ Epenesa out there, not 100%. So I like these moves. My motto is the offense is closer to being complete than the defense. And if you don't re-sign AJ Epenesa, and if you don't sign DaQuan Jones, you got gaping holes. And for the crowd out there that wants the Bills to go heavy on the offensive side, receiver, maybe 2, early in the draft, well, if you don't bring back defensive linemen that are veterans, guess what? You're going to be seeing another Greg Rizzo, Boogie Basham type of draft from Brandon Beane. So I if you really love offense, you should actually like these re-signings for the Bills. Looks like to me, the strategy seems they got their front 4 back. They got their starting 4. You got Ed Oliver, you got DaQuan, you got Von Miller, and you got Greg Rizzo. Now I got AJ Epenesa as that 3rd defensive end. They still got to go out and get a couple bodies for sure. Because as long as Sean McDermott's the head coach of this football team, they're going to A, invest in the defensive line, and B, they're going to play 8 players. Rather significantly. That 7th, 8th defensive lineman, he's going to get 30, 35% of the snaps. But anyway, I think the strategy right now is mostly run it back on defense. Try to get a little bit better with the depth of the defensive tackle position, and we'll see how that plays out, whether that's a veteran or 2, or whether that's a draft. You're trying to improve on what you got last year from Tim Settle or Poona Ford or Jordan Phillips. But I think Leonard Floyd walked to San Francisco. The thinking with that was Von Miller hopefully can get those 10.5 sacks that Leonard Floyd leaves behind this year. And again, if AJ Epenesa could stay healthy He had 6.5 last year, 6.5 the year before. You ideally would like him to get 8. So anyway, that's pretty much what's going on with the Bills in terms of guys that they've re-signed. They did make an addition on Tuesday, late afternoon. Now, I'm going to be completely honest with you. I kind of went into study mode and looking at reaction mode and following media mode to learn more about Nicholas Morrow, which that's the guy that the Bills signed their first. And to this point, as we record this, their only outside addition. Nicholas Morrow, a linebacker from the Philadelphia Eagles, a 1-year contract as of this recording. I do not know the contract details. 28 years old. I'll tell you what, the stat line looks pretty damn good last year. So he started 12 games for the Eagles, which I guess the Kobe Dean going down kind of forced him into more of a starting role. 95 tackles, 3 sacks, 2 fumble recoveries, and a forced fumble. Plenty of starting experience here for Nicholas Morrow. He's been in the league for 5 years. Or 5 years. Yeah, I think it was 5 years I read. And the book on him is he's a really good run stopper. I saw that PFF, and I do follow PFF in their advanced stats. And I kind of, I take the good with the bad when it comes to them. But out of eligible linebackers who played at least 20% of the snaps for their team this past year, which is 89, Morrow was 22nd. So he's a really good run stopper. And from everything I've read, he is a really bad guy in coverage. His PFF grade wasn't horrible in pass coverage, but the book on him is he's not good in pass coverage. He is a early down linebacker. I think what Nicholas Morrow is 2024 Terrell Dotson. I think that's what that is. My gut tells me, and I don't know, there's no inside information. This is speculation and guess. Clearly, the Bills wanted to add another linebacker. That's evidence now that they signed one. But my guess is they probably went to Dotson and said, this is our number. This is what we're going to pay you. This is what we can pay you. And Terrell, who had statistically a really good year last year for the Bills, wants to test the market and thinks he's going to get more money. And I hope he does. But anyway, he probably priced himself out of Buffalo. And the Bills, I would assume, and we'll find out when the contract details come in, which will be, I'm sure, on Wednesday. But they got their guy. They got their backup guy. You got Dorian Williams and Nicholas Morrow now behind Milano and Terrell Bernard. Bale Inspector is going to be in the mix as well. I do find it interesting. And by the way, I think the guy plays special teams, and the Bills have lost some special teams guys. But I do find it interesting that 2 days into free agency now, 2 full days, that the Bills' first move is to go out and get themselves a linebacker. I thought that was pretty interesting. As far as free agency goes, I'm going to take a real quick break here, but I think Joe said this. I think Joe said this on the show the other day. I'm pretty sure he did. I'm pretty sure it was Joe. He said, I bet you that the Bills are treating Matt Milano, like him coming back to the team in 2024, is like their big prized free agent addition, which, I mean, you look at the roster at the end of the year, the run towards the division, the 2-game playoff run, there's no Matt Milano. And now, hopefully, there will be. So I guess that makes sense as well. But anyway, I'm going to take a real quick break, come back, put a bow on what the Bills have done, talk about a couple of former Bills as well, including Jordan Poyer, which, man, it's going to be, there's going to be some tense moments between the Buffalo Bills, or fans at least anyway, and Jordan Poyer and his wife and his brother. Be back right after this break. All right, we are back here, and I am kind of going over what the Bills have done over the first 2 days, giving my thoughts on it. To recap, you got Cam Lewis back. You got DaQuan back, which I love. You got AJ Epenesa back, which I like. You got Taylor Rapp back. That was before free agency. And they've added a linebacker for depth in Nicholas Morrow. If you're one of those comp dorks, one of those comp nerds out there that are actually hoping the Bills don't sign any real free agents because you want to get comp picks and that's more important to you than adding talent for the 2024 team, you probably are looking at right now a 4th or a 5th rounder for losing Gabe Davis to the Jaguars And you're probably looking at a fifth rounder with Leonard Floyd going to the San Francisco 49ers, 2 years, $20 million over there. All right. So before the break, I talked about Jordan Poyer a little bit, and he signed with the Miami Dolphins on Tuesday, 1 year, $2 million. And I'm telling you, man, I went on Twitter almost immediately, and you could see it. There's a lot of well-wishers for sure, as there should be. And then there's a lot of people who know what's coming. You know what's coming. You know that he wanted to be back in Miami. You know he wants to play for the Dolphins. You knew that. And you especially know that his wife, Rachel Bush, wanted Jordan Poyer to play for the Miami Dolphins. She's tweeting up a storm. She's tickled pink. She's through the roof. She's happy. Her brother's happy. I'm sure Jordan's happy. And I don't know, man. I guess my mindset with Jordan Poyer says, first of all, again, him going to, if you're calling Jordan Poyer a traitor because he's now playing for the enemy, the Miami Dolphins, your biggest rival, that's crazy talk. That's stupid. That's really dumb. Jordan Poyer, if he was a free agent, like if Jordan Poyer, like last year, he had an opportunity to test free agency and he went to Miami, and then you come to find out that the Bills offered as much or maybe even more money, then I'd be like, yeah, fuck Jordan Poyer if you're a Bills fan. He's a traitor. Fuck him. I get all that stuff I would get. But it ain't the case here, man. Jordan Poyer quite literally got cut by the Buffalo Bills last week. He didn't want to get cut. He got cut by the Bills, and he's going to continue playing in the NFL with the Miami Dolphins. For what it's worth, I'm not going to be a hypocrite now. I said it last week during free agent preview shows there on the show. I don't think Jordan Poyer is the same player that he was back from 2017 to 2021. In fact, I don't even think he's really close. But I don't think he's washed either. I know a lot of people, and I've seen that word a lot on Twitter X on Tuesday night. Washed. He's washed anyway. I don't buy that. I still think he's a pretty decent player. At worst, he's still a serviceable player. He still has a knack to make plays. You know, in a divisional loss where you're just begging somebody on the Bills, for the love of God, to make a stop, to make an impact play, it was Jordan Poyer who did. It was Jordan Poyer who knocked the football out at the half-inch line right before the Chiefs scored a touchdown. He literally saved the Bills a touchdown. They could have won the game, and if the Bills won the game, Jordan Poyer's the hero. Or certainly one of them. So he still makes plays. I do not think he's washed up. I want to be real clear about that. Don't think he's what he was. In fact, he's not the player that he was. And I don't think Miami thinks that either. Because guess what? 1 year, $2 million contract, only on day 2 of free agency. That tells me that they said, hey, Jordan, sign with us, 1 year, $2 million, and we'll give you an opportunity. Maybe you start. Maybe you get cut. Because for $2 million, probably little or no real guarantee, there's no lock that Jordan Poyer is even going to make the football team. I hope he does. Again, I'm not going to hate on Jordan Poyer. I'm not going to do it. I won't. But I will say, as an older Bills fan who's been around for a long time, Jordan Poyer going to the Miami Dolphins reminds me eerily of February of 2000 when the Bills cut Thurman Thomas. They also cut Andre Reed and Bruce Smith on the same day, Black Thursday. But anyway, they cut Thurman. Thurman was bitter, and Thurman went to the Miami Dolphins. Thurman was completely washed when he went to the Miami Dolphins and admitted afterwards, after his career was long over, that he regretted it. But I kind of get those vibes right now with Jordan Poyer. It's just going to be it's going to be tense, man. It's going to be ugly. I mean, let's just be real about it. You know, I don't know if he's going to talk shit. I don't even think he has Twitter anymore. But you know his fam is, which is okay. Part of the fun, right? Not really hurting anybody. But Bills Mafia, at least some of you are going to be really offended when you see fins up. You know, I seen Rachel Bush already had a fins up. We are home. with exclamation points. She's not saying anything that's mean-spirited, but some fans are going to take it that way. I get it. It's a rivalry. That's what rivalries, when you have a real rivalry, that's what happens. So anyway, Jordan Poyer to Miami. And now for the most part, like a lot of the Buffalo Bills that got cut are pretty much set. Jordan Poyer's in Miami. Mitch Morse and Gabe Davis are in Jacksonville. Leonard Floyd has found his home with the San Francisco 49ers. Real quick, around the NFL, too, because this was, again, a pretty mild opening 2 days for the Buffalo Bills. Again, day 2, you woke up to DaQuan Jones news, probably started scrolling and refreshing on social media as much as possible. I know I did. And also, I wouldn't blame you. I think Bills fans are getting a little bit antsy. Not maybe loud, not vocally, but I'm sure you're starting to get a little bit antsy. Like you're waiting for something to happen. Like when are the Bills going to sign a wide receiver? Or when are the Bills going to sign a safety? Those seem to be at this point the two glaring holes. But again, we're 48 hours or so as we take this into free agency, and there's plenty of time. But the Bills might not be going wild right now, but holy shit, the NFL is going wild. On Tuesday, Derrick Henry to the Baltimore Ravens, 2-year contract. Darnell Mooney goes to Atlanta, 3 years, $39 million. Same money that Gabe Davis got. That could be another good weapon for Atlanta. Atlanta could be a sleeper team right now, I think, in the NFC this year. A lot of skill position players. And Kirk Cousins, if he's even above average in a pretty weak division, I surely think Atlanta is very much going to be in the mix. But anyway, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, he goes to Philly for 3 years. Patrick Queen jumps from Baltimore to Pittsburgh. And then you got the Houston Texans, 2 significant moves. They trade for Joe Mixon. It was being reported on Monday night that Joe Mixon was getting cut. Houston ended up trading for him. So they get him, and then they sign Danielle Hunter. Danielle Hunter, holy shit. What a signing for the Houston Texans. And I'll tell you, I tweeted about this on Tuesday. You start talking about like the class of the AFC, you better include the Houston Texans now. I'm telling you. It's the Kansas City Chiefs. And after that, you can randomize the order whatever way you want between Cincinnati and Buffalo, Baltimore. There's your big 4. Well, guess what? The big 4 right now is the big 5. The Houston Texans last year were a playoff team. And you know CJ Stroud's just going to get better. Tank Dell's going to be back. Will Anderson's going to get better. And they go out and they go get a game-changing defensive end to go with a top 5 rookie and Will Anderson. So now you got Anderson and Hunter on defense with a good defensive coach and CJ Stroud on offense with Mixon, Nico Collins, Noah Brown is back, Tank Dell, Schultz. Man, Houston Texans are going to be a really, really good football team, man. Put some respect on those boys because I'd be shocked if they're not in the mix. And then here, last thing, we're going to get out. I will say, too, tomorrow's show, I'm going to be taping late on Wednesday night, but I'm going to have Anthony Marino with Buffalo Rumblings, from Buffalo Rumblings. He'll be with me, kind enough to do the show late. Typically, Anthony and I take the show early Wednesday mornings for a Thursday drop. But again, this being the first week of NFL free agency, it's just pointless to do a show during the day. This show, as it is only going to have a short, very short shelf life, a handful of hours at best. Do it during the day, forget about it. So anyway, Anthony has agreed to tape real late with me Wednesday night, and he'll be on Thursday. And then Friday's show, Anthony Prohaska from Cover One is going to be in studio with me. And so he'll be right here, and we'll talk a lot of free agency. There's not many people out there that know football like Anthony Prohaska. Absolutely one of my favorites. So anyway, that's going to be over the course of the next couple days. To finish off here, I at least want to touch again on the Buffalo Sabres. I got a dominating win on Tuesday night. If this was any other week besides NFL free agency, most of this show would be about the Sabres. They've crept somehow, some way with this win, 16 games left. They've crept within 5 points of a wild card spot. And it's just crazy because this is a team that was just aimless and going nowhere. And now they at least are in the conversation, sort of, to get dead smack legitimately in a playoff race. They got 16 games left. They're 5 points down. And the best part is their next 2 games are against 2 to 3 teams that they are chasing to get into the playoffs. They got the New York Islanders at home on Thursday, and then they got a rematch with Detroit on the road on Saturday. And before the Detroit game, with having 17 games left, so 34 possible points, I put it out there. I asked some Sabres people, how many points do you think the Sabres need to get to make the playoffs? And they said 28. 28 should get it done. 28 is pretty much going 14-3 over the last 17 games. So now you know, even with the big win on Tuesday night, how uphill this battle is going to be. Whether it's 14-3 or maybe you go, 12-5-2, that could still, no, 12-5-2 would be 13-5-2. That could get you to 28 as well. But anyway, point being is we're at least set up now for some really an exciting couple days of hockey. Every game feels like not just a playoff game right now for the Sabres, but an elimination game. And when you get close like this, just like they did last year, you start looking at the what ifs. What if the Sabres, even just recently, didn't have a 3-game stretch where they only got 1 out of a possible 6 points? Or even worse, you want to dig a little deeper into the what if chest. What happens if the Sabres didn't get swept by the sorry-ass Anaheim Ducks? That's 4 points right there left on the table. So we're at that point. We're at that point where you're going back and you're saying, what if? But, on the bright side, at least we're getting relatively meaningful games here in mid-March. Well, at least through this week. But I'll tell you, man, if the Sabres somehow, some way, if they could win Thursday at home against the Islanders and then go back and win Saturday night against Detroit on the road, both in regulation, too. They need to be regulation victories. Holy shit, are we going to have a fun next week. But anyway, that's going to do it for this episode. I want to thank you again for listening, for watching. Again, one more time, if you're watching the video, please make sure that you like, you comment, subscribe. Helps us grow on the video side. And please, if you haven't already, even if you're watching the video, bust out that phone, go to Talking Buffalo on Apple or Spotify, wherever you normally listen to your other shit from, and just hit that follow button. It really, really, really helps us grow with the algorithm and in every way. So thank you one more time. And I will be back again. New episode. Hopefully, we'll have some actual exciting Buffalo Bills news with maybe a new player or two to talk about. And I'll be doing that with Anthony Marino tomorrow. Talk to you then.